Level 1. The volunteer. You volunteer. That word matters because it separates the Green Berets from every other formation in the U.S. Army. Nobody is assigned to Special Forces. Nobody is drafted, selected by a computer, or transferred against their will. You raise your hand. You are either an active duty soldier who submits a packet through your chain of command, infantry, armor, artillery, signals, any MOS, or you are a civilian who walks into a recruiting station and signs an 18X contract, which is the Army's pipeline for enlisting directly into the Special Forces Qualification Course without prior military experience. Either way, you volunteer knowing that the pipeline is approximately 2 years long and that the attrition rate will consume the majority of the men who enter it. You must be a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident on the path to citizenship. You must score 110 or higher on the general technical section of the ASVAB. You must qualify for a secret security clearance. You must be airborne qualified or willing to attend the basic airborne course at Fort Moore, Georgia, where you will jump from aircraft 5 times in 3 weeks and earn the silver wings that every Green Beret wears. You must be physically fit, mentally resilient, and emotionally mature enough to operate in small teams in austere environments for extended periods without the support infrastructure that conventional units take for granted. The United States Army Special Forces were established in 1952 at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, now Fort Liberty, as a force specifically designed for unconventional warfare. The organization, training, equipping, and advising of indigenous forces to conduct guerrilla operations against a common enemy. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy authorized the Green Beret as the official headgear of the Special Forces, calling it a symbol of excellence, a badge of courage, a mark of distinction in the fight for freedom. Kennedy understood what the Army's conventional leadership resisted, that the future of American warfare would be fought not by divisions, but by 12-man teams training foreign soldiers to fight their own wars. That is what you're volunteering for. Level 2, the selection, Special Forces Assessment and Selection, SFAS, takes place at Fort Liberty and lasts 24 days. It is designed not to teach you Special Forces skills, but to identify whether you possess the physical endurance, mental resilience, problem-solving ability, and interpersonal capacity that the qualification course will develop into operational capability. You ruck march with loads of 50 to 70 pounds over distances that increase daily across the sand hills and pine forests of the Fort Liberty training area. You solve problems as an individual and in teams. You navigate alone through wooded terrain at night using only a map and compass. You are sleep-deprived and food-deprived, and the cadre observe you constantly, assessing not just whether you can complete the tasks, but how you complete them, whether you help others, whether you quit when no one is watching, whether you lead without being asked, whether you follow when leadership isn't yours. The selection rate varies by class, but historically hovers around 50%. Half the men who arrive at SFAS leave without being selected. Some are dropped for physical failure. Some are dropped for psychological unsuitability. Some are dropped for peer evaluations that indicate they cannot function effectively in the team environment that defines Special Forces operations. The men who are selected receive a notification and move into the Special Forces Qualification Course, the Q course, which is the longest and most comprehensive special operations training pipeline in the American military. Depending on your specialty MOS, the Q course lasts 56 to 95 weeks, nearly 2 years. The pipeline includes small unit tactics, MOS, specific training, language school, SERE, and the Robin Sage Unconventional Warfare exercise. You will emerge from the other end as a different soldier than the one who entered, or you will not emerge at all. Level 3, the qualification. The Q course is divided into phases. Phase 1 was SFAS. Phase 2 is the Special Forces Orientation Course and Small Unit Tactics, patrolling, ambushes, raids, reconnaissance, land navigation, mission planning. Phase 3 is MOS training, and this is where the specialization that defines the Green Beret begins. You are assigned one of 4 enlisted specialties. 18 Bravo, Weapons Sergeant, expert in U.S. and foreign weapons systems, from small arms to mortars to anti-armor to air defense. You learn every weapon in the global inventory because the men you will train overseas use weapons manufactured in Russia, China, Eastern Europe, and the developing world. 18. Charlie, Engineer Sergeant, demolitions, explosives, improvised munitions, construction, welding, electrical wiring, plumbing, masonry. You can destroy a bridge and build one. 18 Delta, Medical Sergeant, 250 days of advanced medical training, trauma management, surgical procedures, infectious diseases, cardiac life support, dental care, veterinary medicine. The 18 Delta is trained to a level between a paramedic and a physician and rotates through civilian emergency rooms to maintain clinical skills. 18 Echo, Communications Sergeant, encrypted tactical communications, antenna theory, radio wave propagation, burst transmission. You are the team's link to the outside world. Phase 4 is collective training culminating in Robin Sage, the unconventional warfare exercise conducted across 15 rural North Carolina counties where you operate as a member of an ODA, training a guerrilla force, role-played by local volunteers, in a scenario designed to test every skill the Q course has taught you. Phase 5 is language training, Arabic, Russian, Spanish, Chinese, French, Dari, Pashto. The language assigned matches the Special Forces group you'll be assigned to and the region of the world you'll operate in. Phase 6. You graduate. You don the Green Beret. You receive the Special Forces tab. You are awarded your 18 Series MOS and promoted to Sergeant E5. De Oppresso Liber. To free the oppressed. You are a Green Beret. Level 4, the new operator. You are assigned to one of 5 active duty Special Forces groups, each aligned to a geographic region. First Special Forces Group, Pacific and East Asia, headquartered at Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington. Third Special Forces Group, Africa, headquartered at Fort Liberty. Fifth Special Forces Group, Middle East and Central Asia, headquartered at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Seventh Special Forces Group, Latin America, headquartered at Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. 10th Special Forces Group, Europe and the former Soviet states, headquartered at Fort Carson, Colorado. There are also 2 National Guard groups, the 19th and the 20th. You are assigned to an Operational Detachment Alpha, an ODA, an A-Team, the 12-man unit that is the fundamental building block of everything Special Forces does. The ODA is the smallest, most autonomous, and most capable unit in the conventional Army's architecture. 12 men who can deploy to a denied area, link up with an indigenous population, train a guerrilla army, coordinate airstrikes, conduct intelligence collection, provide medical care to a village, and build or destroy infrastructure, all without external support for weeks or months at a time. Your ODA has a detachment commander, a captain, the 18 Alpha, an assistant detachment commander, a warrant officer, the 180 Alpha, a team sergeant, a master sergeant, the 18 Zulu, an intelligence sergeant, a sergeant first class, the 18 Foxtrot, and 2 each of weapons, engineer, medical, and communications sergeants. 12 men. The team can split into 2 6-man elements for independent operations. Every man is cross-trained in every other man's specialty, because a redundancy is not a luxury on a team this small, it is survival. You are the junior man. You are an E5. You carry your specialty and you carry the expectations of a team of men who have been doing this for years and who will judge you not on your Q course scores, but on your performance in the field. Level 5, the Staff Sergeant, E6. You've deployed. The deployment is what separates the Green Beret from every other soldier in the Army and what separates the Green Beret from the other Tier 1 and Tier 2 Special Operations Forces. Delta Force conducts direct action, kicking in doors and killing targets. The 75th Rangers conduct large-scale raids. The Green Beret's primary mission is unconventional warfare and foreign internal defense, training indigenous forces to fight their own wars. You deploy to a country in your group's area of responsibility, and you live among the local military or the local population. Not on a fortified American base with air conditioning and a dining facility, but in a compound or a village or a camp in the mountains or the jungle or the desert, sharing the conditions of the men you are training, eating their food, sleeping under their roof, earning their trust through proximity because trust cannot be earned at a distance. You train a company of Afghan commandos in small unit tactics and marksmanship. You train a battalion of Colombian soldiers in counter-narcotics operations. You train a platoon of African Special Forces in counterterrorism. You do this in their language, or close enough to it, because every Green Beret has language training, and every Green Beret is expected to develop cultural competency that goes beyond vocabulary into the social structures, tribal dynamics, religious practices, and political realities of the region he operates in. You are a soldier, a teacher, a diplomat, and an advisor simultaneously. The ODA's power is not firepower, though the team can coordinate devastating airstrikes and artillery. The ODA's power is the ability to multiply force by training indigenous soldiers who then train more soldiers who then sustain the capability after the ODA leaves. You are a force multiplier. That phrase is not jargon. It is the reason the Green Berets exist. Level 6, the Sergeant First Class, E7. You've completed multiple deployments, 3, 4, 5 rotations to your group's region. You are the senior specialist on the ODA in your MOS. If you're in 18 Delta, you've treated trauma and field conditions that would overwhelm most civilian emergency rooms. Gunshot wounds, blast injuries, infections acquired in jungle or desert environments, veterinary emergencies for pack animals used by indigenous forces. You've conducted sick call for an Afghan village of 200 people and diagnosed conditions with equipment that fits in a rucksack. If you're an 18 Bravo, you've trained foreign soldiers on weapons platforms from the AK-47 to the RPG-7 to the M2 heavy machine gun, adapting your instruction to men who may be illiterate and whose military tradition bears no resemblance to yours. You may reclassify to 18 Foxtrot, the intelligence sergeant, which requires 2 years on an ODA and completion of the Special Forces Intelligence Sergeant's course. As an 18F, you plan and conduct intelligence collection operations, establish source networks, and conduct target analysis. The 18F is where the Green Beret and the intelligence community intersect, and the skills you develop in this specialty, source operations, target analysis, intelligence networking, reporting, are the skills that make some operators candidates for the CIA's Special Activities Center ground branch after they leave the Army, which is the pipeline through which a significant number of the agency's paramilitary operations officers are recruited. You are 30 or 32 years old. You've spent a decade in Special Forces. You speak at least one foreign language functionally. You've operated in countries that most Americans have never heard of, doing work that most Americans will never know about, building relationships with foreign soldiers whose trust you earned by living beside them, training beside them, and sometimes fighting beside them. Level 7, the team sergeant. 18 Zulu, master sergeant. E8, you are the senior NCO on the ODA and the most important person on the team. That is not hyperbole. The detachment commander is a captain who may be on his first or second ODA assignment. The team sergeant has been on ODAs for 10 to 15 years. The relationship between the two is the relationship that makes the ODA function. The captain's authority and the team sergeant's experience working in partnership. the way a young CEO works with a chief operating officer who has been with the company since before the CEO was hired. You manage the team's training, operations, logistics, and administration. You mentor every man on the ODA in his specialty and in the broader craft of unconventional warfare. You are the quality control mechanism for every skill the team possesses: weapons, demolitions, medical, communications, intelligence. Because if the 18 Delta's trauma skills have degraded, or the 18 Echo's communications equipment hasn't been maintained, or the 18 Bravo can't teach a foreign soldier to clear a malfunction on an AK-47, the team's capability is diminished and the mission suffers, and the indigenous soldiers the ODA is training pay the price. You prepare the team for deployment, and you lead the team during deployment in all operational matters that the commander delegates, which in practice is most matters because a wise commander delegates extensively to his team, sergeant, and a team sergeant who has earned the trust of his men can accomplish through professional authority and personal example things that no order from a captain could achieve through rank alone. The team sergeant is the rank that the entire Special Forces career progression builds toward for enlisted soldiers. Everything before it, sergeant, staff sergeant, sergeant first class, is preparation. Everything after it, company sergeant major, battalion command sergeant major, group command sergeant major, is administration and advocacy. The team sergeant is the operational pinnacle. Level 8, the warrant officer. 180 Alpha, chief warrant officer. You were an 18 Zulu who chose the warrant officer path, a lateral move that preserves your operational role while deepening your technical expertise and expanding your planning capability. As the Assistant Detachment Commander, you are the ODA's second in command. You serve as the tactical and technical authority on all aspects of Special Forces operations. You manage staff functions. You are the team's expert on psychological operations, civil affairs, and cultural engagement. You recruit, organize, train, and advise indigenous combat forces up to battalion size. When the detachment commander is absent, and in split team operations, which are common, the commander is always absent from one half of the ODA. You command the second element independently, often in a different location, conducting a separate mission with limited or no communication to the other half for extended periods. The warrant officer is the institutional repository of Special Forces knowledge in a way that no other rank in any branch matches, because the warrant officer stays on OD as longer than anyone else. Commanders rotate through on 2-year assignments. Team sergeants eventually promote to sergeant major and move to staff positions. The warrant officer remains. He may serve on ODAs for 15 or 20 years, accruing operational knowledge across dozens of deployments in multiple groups. He is the continuity that the rotational system otherwise lacks. At the company level, the company technician is a CW3 or above, who serves as the commander's principal advisor on all Special Forces technical matters. The warrant officer path is the quiet career, less visible than the command sergeant major track, less prestigious to outsiders, but within the Special Forces community, it is understood as the path that keeps you closest to the mission for the longest time. Level 9, the officer. You are an 18 Alpha, captain, detachment commander. You command 11 men who are, individually, among the most capable soldiers in the American military, and collectively, a team that can deploy to any environment on Earth and train an indigenous force to fight a war. You may have entered Special Forces through the 18A officer pipeline at the Q course, or you may have branched into Special Forces from another Army branch after completing the Special Forces Detachment Officer Qualification Course. You are 28 to 32 years old. You are responsible for everything the detachment does or fails to do. You meet with ambassadors, foreign ministers of defense, and tribal elders. You conduct the military decision-making process and produce operations orders that translate strategic objectives into tactical actions executed by your ODA. You manage the relationship between your team and the Company B team, the Battalion C team, and the group headquarters. Above the ODA, the officer career progresses through Company Command as a major on the B team, Battalion Command as a Lieutenant Colonel on the C team, and Group Command as a Colonel leading one of the 5 active duty Special Forces groups, each with approximately 1,400 soldiers organized into 4 battalions of 6 ODAs per company. The 5 active duty groups, the 2 National Guard groups, the Special Warfare Center and School, and the various Special Operations Commands that oversee Special Forces within USASOC and SOCOM represent the institutional framework within which the Green Beret operates. But the soul of Special Forces is not in the headquarters, it is on the ODA. 12 men in a country that isn't theirs, speaking a language that isn't theirs, training soldiers who aren't theirs, fighting a war that will continue after they leave. The Green Beret's job is to make himself unnecessary. That is the hardest thing any soldier can do. Level 10, the cycle. Right now, at a recruiting station or a battalion headquarters or a barracks room at Fort Liberty, a soldier is reading about the 18X program or filling out a Special Forces volunteer packet or telling his squad leader that he wants to try out for SFAS. He's 22 or 25 or 28 years old. He may be a private fresh out of basic training who signed an 18X contract because something about the Green Berets appealed to him in a way that conventional service did not. He may be a sergeant with 5 years of infantry experience who watched a Special Forces ODA operate in his area of operations during a deployment and decided that was the kind of soldier he wanted to be. He doesn't know about the sandhills at SFAS, or the 24 days of rucking and sleep deprivation and peer evaluations that will determine whether he advances. He doesn't know about the 2 years of the Q course or the 250 days of medical training for the 18 Deltas, or the Robin Sage exercise in the Carolina woods, where the line between training and reality is deliberately blurred. He doesn't know about the team sergeant who will become the most important mentor of his career, or the 12-man ODA that will become the closest thing to a family that the military produces. He doesn't know about the deployment where he'll sit cross-legged on a dirt floor with village elders drinking tea and discussing tribal politics in a language he learned at a school in North Carolina. He doesn't know that the Green Beret's greatest weapon is not a rifle. It is rapport, the ability to earn the trust of men from a different culture, a different language, a different world, and to build from that trust a fighting force that outlasts the American presence, de oppresso liber. He raises his hand. The cycle begins again.